Welcome back, one and all, to the Blizzard Arena here in lovely sunny, for once, in Los Angeles. Mitch Leslie here with Matt Morello.
Usually pretty sunny here.
It's not for once. Last few weeks have been a bit average. My mood gets affected by the weather. I'm just like that. But it's sunny today.
Yeah.
More importantly, it's dark and dank inside here, just like the basement we all play video games from. And now we're ready to jump into our second match of the day. Hopefully everyone's starting to wake up a little bit, because this one is interesting. It's a bit of a fated rematch between the Boston Uprising and the Toronto Defiant, Matt. There are some rivalries that bubble beneath the surface, but more than anything, these two teams are really trying to step out in front of the league now in Stage 2 after a middling Stage 1 performance.
Yeah, you know, both of these teams find themselves in like the middle of the pack, so to speak. Boston, they make the change, bringing RCK over from the Dallas Fuel for Note. And then Note Toronto, you know, they make some additions. IM37 comes in, plays quite well the other day.
And no doubt about it. I mean, that player, very interesting for us. His rise to the Overwatch League has been one of the shortest, I think, that we've sort of witnessed. But RCK on the Boston Uprising definitely has started to show his influence already. We saw the reverse sweep from the Boston Uprising, prior. Dallas and Atlanta both fall into their hand.
And it's not like he was bad when he was over on Dallas. I think he had a lot of good matches when he was on the Dallas Fuel. He brings a little bit of a different look to Boston. They can play some Sombra now, where they didn't really play that much before. And he seems to be gelling well with Fusions and the rest of the guys on Boston already.
No doubt about it. We wondered about that trade. We thought, is there a hidden purpose behind this one? It looks like Boston were of a mind to diversify their offering a little bit more. And, we talked about RCK in the past as well, like how good is he at being clutch. We definitely saw him make a big impact late in the fight, which is something that maybe he didn't do so much with Dallas. But that's been impressive. Again, I'm 37. We've got to talk about this guy because he's hilarious. Completely debated Danny in the interview. Clearly fluent in English, but more importantly, fluent at Tracer as well. His performance coming into the couple of these maps with the Defiant, he looked excellent.
I mean, he just rocked up, threw the jersey on, and was like, all right, put me out there, man. I'm ready to go.
The prior day, on the plane. So he'd made a long trip to get to the Overwatch League, straight out of the gates. I mean, this guy seemed already conditioned for the stage, when in reality, he'd never played on one before.
Yeah, and you see from Marty from Splice, you see, so now that he's played a match already, we're going to promote him to head coach, and then eventually have Marty's job, like running all of Splice, GM, whatnot.
I, for one, welcome our new Overwatch League commissioner, IM37. I'm sure that's on the cards for him as well. Very impressive. We'll see if the hype sort of remains. Of course, with Stella's departure, they definitely need him to be quite a strong performer in this roster. Stella obviously left a bit of a hole, but we've seen him play a couple of those roles, and it's time to see him walk back onto the stage again with his team. Let's welcome to the arena, the Toronto Defiant. Six and 2, Matt, so far in the Overwatch League, and it's been quite impressive. And I've said this before, I even wrote about it actually this week. The Toronto Defiant, they love being underdogs. They want that status, they want to retain it for as long as they can, but you cannot be 6 and 2 with a strong roster. Perhaps I think it's just because they're a very no-nonsense team. They don't mess about, they play very standard, very solid. But this is a stage, and this is a meta, or you can diverge from that.
Yeah, I think if you're Toronto, you're not underdogs, right? But you just kind of want to lay low. Let all the praise go to like the Vancouvers and the Shocks of the world, right? Yeah, let them have that limelight. You can just keep racking up the wins. Neko going against his former team. Neko in the flex support role. We'll see if he has those Boston Uprising sprays on today by accident, or whether he's fixed that.
Yeah, he accidentally took them off and then accidentally put them back on again as well. But remember, with greater performances comes greater expectations, and their opponents for this match will be the Boston Uprising. Leading the charge, the Great Dane, Kellex. And we touch again on RCK in this roster. He's been working out. They lost Note. We definitely thought that Note was one of the, he's a potential franchise player for this team. He was such a solid individual, great mechanically, but it seems like they haven't really missed a beat.
Boston knows what they're doing. Like a lot of other teams, you make a move like that, you'd really be questioning it, but they have made consistently great moves throughout the Overwatch League this far, and there are a lot of times where you think like it'll result in like a slip in the standings, or maybe a few losses. They have a play style that's pretty consistent. They're able to just kind of move some players around, put some new players in, and have success.
And we have seen Boston Uprising as a team excel at very different things actually throughout the league, you know, when different stages and different metas. But I mean, the reverse sweep against the Atlanta Reign, they really brought the wall down on them there. RCK, big part of that one. Sombra is so important right now. If you can really leverage her power and take away the mobility and damage mitigation of tanks in general, you're off to a great start in many of these fights.
Yeah, I mean, anything, just RCK coming in just gives them another level of depth in their play, right? You don't expect the Diva to be there all the time, as you saw when they had Node in. Now maybe you can throw some Sombra looks at the other teams. They're a little bit harder to game plan for.
We'll even see some, you know, damage-dealing play from Blase. Color Hex as well. We know he's got a bit of that up his sleeve. But let's find out where we're going to be going here. It's your map set presented to you by Toyota. Now, 2 of these maps in this series, Toronto did beat the Uprising on last stage. That's Busan or Rialto. They will return. Hanamura and Eichenwald, though, new inclusions.
Yeah, and we'll see if any of these teams decide to run on a map like Hanamura, that bunker comp with the Batiste, the Bastion. Don't think you'll see that here on Busan. I think you're going to see some damage dealing heavy compositions here on Busan as we see, you know, the Widowmakers come out, the Tracers as well.
And again, if you look at least what these teams are hovering, the Boston Uprising have now a decent offering in terms of damage dealer players, or players at least with those in their pool. And you could say exactly the same of Toronto Defiant. Both these teams now well positioned to pivot to a different play style. And as I come out of the gates, we're going to see just that. I'm 37 on the Widowmaker, up against Color Hex, the Kiwi.
Now
See how this plays out.
You got Ivy playing Roadhog here. So you bring Roadhog into the mix. Roadhog obviously, you know, deters a lot of the flankers that could come out with the hook, being able to just kind of like one-shot some of those squishies, and you're able to pick off RCK right there.
Again, I mean, there's 2 flankers on the side of the Boston Uprising in Blase and RCK. 2 heroes that are very susceptible to the crowd control ability that Roadhog offers. Pull them straight out of the mix and deal with them instantly. It's just as well, because otherwise I'm 37 wouldn't have much room to breathe while we're under the pressure of Tracer and Sombra this whole round. So switch for Blase. He's now playing the Hog himself.
Oh, push stops before it even begins. As I'm 37 takes out Color Hex, so to lose the Widowmaker, you're forced to back up as Toronto's look very strong this far.
I mean, look at how much breathing room this guy now has to just lay this damage down. Toronto just pushing off that first pick that I'm 37 set up with a nice engagement by Yakpong. Aim God had nowhere to go, really.
You know, in the same way that like a Brigitte scares some of these flankers, Roadhog in the same way, if RCK like pops out, they know that the hook is still available. All it takes is that hook. You can't translocate out of it, right? You're going to get taken out, so you have to play very careful.
Not only does that give you the first pick map, but it offers the end of the fight right there, especially with how important Sombra is in setting up full-scale team engagements. I'm 37, comfortable Widow position for him here. Some rotations now to the back window. Point is being contested, but the Boston Uprising have been battered as they try and approach. Blase takes a big hit from I'm 37, and now with that infra site available, Boston's plans are revealed, but they still seem to work out so far. RCK was able to deal with Yakpung here. Bite a grenade, landed on Blase. Color Hex now in a position to be able to clean up.
You do have Ivy, though, who switches over to Tracer, get on the point. So you're going to still get some progress here for Toronto.
Oh, here comes those. He's sleeping. Neko prone on the ground is down. Fusions removes him. It's going to be Yakpung actually comes straight on in here.
Not the pile drive. Clear them off the point.
No, I mean, Toronto's still in control now at 74% for them. Fusions might be able to find a kill there with the minefield. Ivy eventually getting removed, but the Defiant staggered it out for so long.
Yeah, I mean, they get an extra, like, you know, 18% out of that, which is pretty large, as now they come back with some ultimates. Now you're going to have your minefield, your EMP here available for Toronto. So can you set up a really good EMP? No infrasight for Color Hex, so not going to be able to spot that Sombra out rather quickly or easily. So I think the EMP is going to come in here, and then you're going to see, you know, maybe a minefield.
The EMP connects here onto 4 players. Yakpung especially. That's nasty to catch him up with that one of Fusions now. Comboing with the EMP quite impressively. That's the hook we're looking for. And Ivy is removed.
You use, you know, Whole Hog gets a little bit of a buff, right? You know, able to knock players back really far. It feels way stronger than Whole Hog has felt in the past. Is the EMP plus that Whole Hog, you get 2 kills that came out from fusions with the ground slam from the Hammond, but the ultimate advantage heavily in favor of the Toronto Defiant going into this next fight.
This is where you want to be as Color Hex. Your team controls the point. They've even pushed up a little bit more. They have a Sombra able to scout out. A lot of information being fed back to Color Hex. But now the Defiant trying to break line of sight as they work around the left side. No one's noticed Ivy yet. Oh, that was such a quick stick. Aim God goes down. Ivy had the pulse bomb queued up before he dashed, so there was no window for Aim God to respond. Immediately deleted. So filthy. Now Toronto can start to move back into the point. They have let Boston get back in the game after losing that previous team fight, but now they seek to re-establish dominance.
Yeah, I mean, you had the EMP that came out, the nano boost as well, but it's that pulse bomb at the beginning, the early pick from Ivy that really swings it in Toronto's favor. Toronto in one-fight territory here. That's going to be the infosight from Color Hex. Yakpung does have this minefield, so you're going to be able to put it on the point, make it very difficult for Boston to come in.
Sound barrier coming up for Kellex here. They're going to need it if they want to traverse the nasty field of mines, and they have to go pretty much now. Fusions appear to have been put to sleep for just a moment. He gets nano boosted now. Very durable on this point, and Boston will retake.
I don't know who put that damage down on the Fusions, but when he gets nanoed, he gets slept right away by Neko, but somebody fires at him and wakes him right up. So that's big. I mean, when you land those sleeps, especially on a nano boosted target like that, where they can put down so much extra damage, you gotta leave them asleep.
Toronto move back onto the point now. Yakpung hacked and by the grenade. Not much you can really do about that. RCK lingering to get a bit of extra damage and continue to pressure the enemy main tank. Color Hex has gone down. Envy wins that duel out. Now here's the EMP. It actually only catches I'm 37 here, and yes, he goes down. But there's more work to be done, and Ivy's starting to bring things back now for the Defiant. Pulse bomb connecting, and aim got missing. RCK low, and he's taken down. Another one for Ivy. The trace of work really starting to come into the fold now. And the Toronto Defiant look to clean up this fight. Envy has to abscond via translocator, but it's a recall was used by Color Hex now. He has nowhere to run. And the Toronto Defiant let it stretch out a bit, but sure enough, they take round one.
And something that Boston did not do during that entire round was put any pressure onto Neko playing Ana. He just kind of sat off to the side, able to get a nice view of both sides of the point and all the way through to the other side staircase. And he's able to put down so much healing. He accounts for 72% of the healing from the Toronto Defiant there on that first point. Just, when you have that Ana, constantly he's hitting those biotic grenades, right, time after time. You had to put some pressure on him eventually. You never got to.
I'm 37 with 5 final blows on Widowmaker in the previous round. Color Hex with 2. Defiant definitely getting a little bit more value out of their Widowmaker presence.
So quad tank coming out here for Boston. So 4 tanks, 2 supports. You have Kellex for the speed really, and then AimGod going to be playing Moira, providing a ton of AoE healing.
An incredibly mobile composition for the Boston Uprising. They'll be relying on them. Kellex's reduced speed boost to get them around effectively. The Defiant can sort of split as much as they like. I'm 37, the Bionic Grass taking him low and Fusion catching him somehow airborne with a fire strike. Yakpung now will have to back away. Toronto really wanted to posture aggressively early and take high ground control, but losing I'm 37 has made that much more perilous a task.
I mean, you lose the Widowmaker. The Widowmaker doesn't really have a ton of squishy targets to one-shot here, but getting either of the supports would be huge. Yeah, Yakpung just wants to go in and just cause some chaos, right? Just go right through people. That'll be the Coalescence. EMP as well that comes out, so the Coalescence is taken away as Toronto's lit the point.
Yeah, Boston Uprising's composition kind of demands that they play together. So they did just that. They played off the point and let Toronto sort of take it back midway through the fight. Now Toronto using that against the Uprising, using someone like Ivy to pick them apart.
Especially when you're using the Coalescence there for Boston, when you get hit with the EMP, you don't get anything out of it. That is the only really source of healing you have right there. It's kind of tough. And you see Boston make some changes. So they'll play 3 tanks now. Color Hex will go play Widowmaker. AimGod going to switch off of the Moira, going to play Ana here to get some heals at range.
Stick there, Color Hex down. Ivy may not know what target he was looking for. It looks like that was off the back of a sleep dart from Neko at extreme range.
I mean, anybody with that pulse bomb, right? I mean, you can't with Hulk, Color Hex, or any of the supports. It's going to be a fight win. They're going to have to back out. So although you did get point control first for Boston, they gave up so much positioning after that. They didn't really gain anything.
That's right. They all played together. They lost control of the point midway through the fight. All right, Yakpung now is going to get the nano boost here. Pile Driver doesn't find anyone, but now he sees we've found the rest of the Boston Uprising all clumped together. He's an easy target for a sleep dart, but it doesn't last forever. Biotic Grenade wakes him up, and Color Hex off the edge. Yakpung, no, he can't get out of that one either. Fortunately, I'm 37, and the rest of the squad are cleaning up. Looks like A just hangs around a little bit too
You're going to
long.
be able to make a push into this, though, for Boston. You just have Envy, I'm 37, in Neko here. You're going to get some more players back in the fight a little bit earlier here for the Uprising.
Colorhead's trying to use RCK as a beacon to attract fire, and it works. He's able to get the better now of the Toronto Defiance Widowmaker, and Toronto really don't have much to work with anymore on this point. They're going to have to back out or stall it till 99 if they possibly can. It's looking increasingly likely at this rate. And the Toronto Defiant aren't too upset about this.
Yeah, I mean, even not getting it to 99, it's still a one-fight game here for Toronto. So you'll have sound barrier to work with. And not worry about like anything on the other side. No Sombra, so you'll be able to use that as you please. You can take a look. Nice shot there from Color Hacks on I'm37 and 8 as well. Back-to-back headshots.
Like that 3. Switch for Neko here towards Zenyatta, perhaps wanting to pressure Blase and Fusions just a little bit more. Again, Roadhog doesn't really have any shielding of his own, he just needs to take the damage and hope it's not enough. Color Hex in a safe spot here, it's going to be a sound barrier from the Defiant, but there's a huge bite of grenade from Aimbot that is so rough for them. No healing, no chance.
Yeah, but I think if you're Toronto, I mean, you make some changes coming in. You know your best chance is to just play, you know, the triple tank, triple support to just get one fight in your favor. So they end up using their sound barrier during that. And now you see Boston go back to this one. They changed to the Reinhardt version of the 3-3. So quick change that comes in for Boston. They're gonna have to get back on here and touch though. RCK, the only one there.
I like the idea, Matt, but it looks like the Boston Uprising might have gotten a little bit cute. They can at least contest this point. It doesn't hurt them because Toronto can't gain any further capture progress. But still, that overtime will decay much faster the longer they remain here. And it looks like the Defiant are more than happy to take the point and now fight for it to end the round. Color Hex was quite low, nice little shield bash to try and keep him alive, but Yakun was determined to finish off Azaya. He's low now for the Primal Rage. Good timing, and Boston may be in a little bit of trouble here. Fusions is knocked back yet. Another stunner was Yakun, but he's found a new target. Aim God seems to be where he's heading. But he gets pressured low enough that he has to back out of that engagement. Fusions did go down though. The displacement provided from Yakun seems to have been enough to sow utter disarray in the Boston Uprising. And Aim God tried to go for a Transcendence, but it wasn't enough. Notice the bubble put down there by Yakun blocked a lot of that Transcendence healing in the last few moments. Toronto Defiant take map 1.
And I think Boston, they decide to go back and switch their comp to give up position. Does not pay off in the end. They give the point back to Toronto, and Toronto never gives it up after that. Map number 1 goes to the Defiant. We'll be back with map number 2 after the break.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Boston Uprising try a little bit of a cute composition switch to 3-3 at the end of the round, Matt. It does not work, and in fact, they give the point to Toronto.
Yeah, I think one thing to note is, you know, with the new patch coming through and being played in the stage, the adjustments to Lucio's speed boost, where in the past, you know, I think Boston, they had the right idea. Go back, switch it with that Lucio speed boost, get everybody back to this one. I just don't think you can get there as fast as you can in the previous meta.
Had they
Lucio had that really strong speed.
Had they not turned the point over, they would still have been in control, still accruing capture percentage, and have been able to fight more comfortably there.
Yes,
So
I mean, they did switch to the Reinhardt version of the 3-3, which against the Winston version, especially at that close point, you think you have some kind of advantage, right? Where
I want to hope so.
if they do make it back in time, they have a decent chance of being able to hold it.
I'm all about these trap remixes of these maps.
Yeah, what about it?
Hanamura will be our second map of the series, and already we are seeing telling signs of the Toronto Defiant going for a bunker composition setup. It's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe not for the Boston Uprising, you have to find out how to break it, but hey, I'm here for entertainment.
Yeah, you go through the map. You see the 2 points that Boston have to take to complete the map. Is this first one's going to be kind of tough, especially when you have the Batiste Bastion set up right with the Orisa. Orisa just great shield up time. The shield's not up. You have the Immortality field. You have Defense Matrix. A lot to take that damage away. And then you just have Ivy poking down constantly on the far.
And if you need damage boosting, well, you've got Supercharger and, of course, the Amplification Matrix. So a lot of tools for Toronto to get an edge in these team fights. And Boston, again, send the scout forward, make some switches. Blasé on the Hanzo.
And as you see the setup here, a lot of people up high ground. You're going to have the Pharah for the crossfire on the other side of things. I think even if you see RCK falls, even if you were to see Boston go in and start poking for some time, it still takes a ton of time off the clock. And you're looking at potentially well, we'll see how this goes, but you're going to have to build up some ultimates over the course of let's say a minute 30 or so, and then you have a fight. But at that time, you're down with no ultimates, and you only have a little bit more than a minute to go.
You can see why this comp is so important for the Uprising. Blasé with his Storm Arrow can really work shields down. Color Hex, doesn't have damage fall off if he's firing at greater range. So a lot of shield pressure there. It's all about forcing the Defiant to move.
Yeah, Boston did something nice there, though. Fusions actually rolled on to the point that they had RCK up on the high ground, just force the Diva down, and then maybe you can get a window that you can be able to just put some damage on the Bastion. Here's going to be it. The Amplification Matrix already being put down here from Neko. So drops that down, some extra damage, extra healing being able to be put down. But we talk about Batiste and his kit. We kind of forget about his primary fire, that he can do that burst damage. The burst weapon right up on the bar in the sky.
A little bit of recall from the 3-shot burst. Not always easy to get 3 headshots. In fact, I think it's quite hard.
You see those grenades up in the sky, already grenade spots. Yep, they're landing right now on top.
All right, RCK gets rid of the barrier here. I'm 37 being protected by the rest of his team. It was only him and the Akpum being affected. And now the Immortality field is keeping I'm 37 alive through the Dragon Strike. Nicely employed by Neko. Now the Defiant rotate back to the point. Ivy has a barrage in case Boston get a little bit too close, and Aim God's Transcendence will be oh so important.
And now for Toronto, just getting this Bastion set up yet again.
I'm here for this.
Ivy taking the battle up in the sky here. Yaklun falls. You may have to burn the Resurrection on the Yaklun for the shield.
Yeah, might have to bring him back here as well. Ultimate's being burned all in sundry for the Toronto Defiant. Barrage and tank configuration both used, and it was enough to deal with the Boston Uprising. And yes, the Resurrect was used on Yakum here, so the Defiant come out looking no worse than they've started, really. There's a minute 33 on the clock for Boston to come up with an answer.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's kind of what we were talking about. It just takes a while to be able to break this setup, try and get some ultimates that'll work in your favor. So Boston, they'll have a few ultimates. Rocket Mirage here, Transcendence. You're going to have the Minefield. Maybe use the Minefield to block the point as I'm37 gets low, forced to rotate on back.
Big opportunity for Color Hex to complete a kill there. Unfortunately, a couple of those rockets not flying as true as he would have liked. See a little bit of dueling back and forth. For Color Hex's main concern is definitely I'm37 and not Ivy. Envy got hacked up there. EMP now being used. 4 players caught by that one. I'm37 and Yakpum both stripped of their faculties, and Envy gets knocked off, should I say. And 1-for-1 now is going to be the barrage onto Yakpum's shield. That immediately disintegrates. Yakpum forced to use Fortify. Immortality field on I'm37, kept him alive now, but they've got to go forward here. A bongo placed down by Yakpum. Toronto still maintaining presence on the point so far. Color Hex goes down to the Faradul. Now it's time for I'm37. Tank configuration. But the Boston Uprising have had to disengage. They don't want to push into close quarters against this Bastion ult.
Now, an RCK actually got a big hack on Neko, so you didn't get that Immortality field down right away. but just able to survive through a lot of that damage. And so Toronto Defiant able to get the Immortality field, then the Amplification Matrix towards the end.
Envy takes out,
gets staggered out.
the Translocator. Envy removed that first. He saw RCK try and throw that one out. So now the Uprising are without their Sombra for what will definitely be their last push of this attack. 37 realizes the shield in front of him is gone again. He slips, he tries to get away, he can't heal himself. And Fusions completes the kill. Goes deep to find that one, but that's the most important target on the side of the Defiant. And now the Boston Uprising need to develop the rest of their plan to catch this point. Ivy playing off to the side, he's caught Blase. One more rocket will do the job. Desperate healing coming out from main, got to keep him up and it works. Ivy not able to assassinate, he goes down to Color Hex. Now the Boston Uprising move to the point. Looks like they finally got it.
And you have a few players still here for Toronto, so they will fall. The biggest play during that is that they use the self-destruct. So Envy uses his self-destruct to try and buy time for Aid to come in and get the resurrection off on I'm37. And Fusions on the Wrecking Ball just rolls through and breaks up that resurrection, so you didn't see the Bastion come back.
Look at this snowball. Boston already moving to the point. The team very mobile. They've already got themselves 58% of the capture now. Dragon Strike being thrown through. Ivy and Outlook both down. The Uprising can continue this momentum now into a map completion. Envy's missing. It's pure stagger, but Color Hex is in a great spot to get damage done. And the Boston Uprising go from being in a very compromising situation to coming out of Hanamura with time to spare. It's not easy to do, but with a comp like theirs, they had the need for speed, and they had that in spades. We're very happy with that one there, and Fusions always has plenty of words to say right now, but satisfaction for the Uprising, and they'll head in to their defensive attempt after this.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
One fight territory to 3 minutes and 26 seconds in the time bank. That's your Boston Uprising. They managed to recover from a very tough spot map with a snowball move on towards that point B.
Yeah, but you take a look, this replay towards the end. So this is when I was talking about they use the self-destruct to try and buy time for Aid to come in there and get the res off. They're not able to get it off as Fusions breaks that resurrection up.
Not easy to hit that immortality field though. You see the Fusions had to get first through the shield of Yaktung, and that is why we often see that Orisa paired with Batiste in these setups. It's not easy to deal with that module, or drone as the players call it.
Yeah, so Aim God just jumping off the side, having some fun. So, they'll be running the bunker composition with the Batiste, with the Orisa, and the Bastion. Get that set up on the high ground. What does Toronto decide to do? A lot of teams go for like a Hanzo, Pharah, Sombra with a Wrecking Ball. This would be a little bit interesting with like a kind of like a dive, but no, Ivy's going to switch off of Genji. He'll play Pharah here. You will have the Tracer in play. So you don't have like the Hanzo to burst down shield, but with Sombra Tracer, you can put some more pressure on the point, force him to rotate back.
I wonder if Aim got actually inting at the start of that hurt the Uprising setup, sorry, because he's just returned now. But getting IM37 so early is nice.
He gets the first pick, so.
They rotated off the high ground very quickly.
Well, they're not playing the high ground.
Not anymore. Hack, sorry, on Blase.
He just recon votes 8 out of the sky, little wave there.
Nice to see him play something other than Rialto at the moment.
Clearing the area.
Color Hex sort of has the freedom here just to try and spot things out. He can do a lot of scouting from this position. Also, dual Ivy would he reveal himself. Pressure Neko from distance. We have a contest on the point so far. So Yakpong and I'm37 have moved on there, and you can see Ivy hovering over the building. So Color Hex needs to keep an eye on all this, and Blaze needs to now be employed towards the point. The Bell is going to make it a little bit hard for him to see the action, and he will try and fend into the off. He'll just translocate out if he needs to. Color Hex has gone down to the Pharaoh battle. Not a great start for the Boston Uprising now, and that body grenade hurts! Oh! Neko getting 2 with that. Blaze able to deal with I'm37, but Yakpong trying to hide around the corner. Kelex just gets the resurrect here. The Uprising now back up in play as Blaze late in the fight. Huge contribution and almost ready for his tank configuration.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a great job just changing his position constantly on this Bastion. Just really being a nuisance as the nano boost will be used here for Toronto on the Ivy. Just trying to put down so much damage in that close area, but they just cannot get any vision on the Blaze.
Blaze has to go down now. He already got 2 kills though, and it might already be a broken back for the Defiant. You saw that Neko had to use a nano boost on Ivy to even give him the durability to risk facing Blaze 1v1 for a moment.
Well, with the setup that Boston has, it would be great if Toronto had the Hanzo to be able to use the Dragon Strike to just force him out of that position.
Oh, that's so
and he gets a hack on the
kill. Oh, that's so rough. Huge stagger. Sombra's so good at doing that, hiding near the enemy spawn. Color Hex, remember, he's grounded.
And they want to force him into a switch.
Ivy. It's going to be Envy now with that EMP. Connections on multiple players, Blaze especially, also fusions, no ability to shield, he can't fortify either. Aqua now can just wait, move to the point, minefield if he would need it. It looks like that may not even be the case right now though, as Boston's forces are dwindling. They're staggering RCK just a little longer here to keep him out of step, the rest of his team, because they're planning to snowball as well.
I mean, it is a better loss there for Boston than Toronto had. At least Boston and everybody drop at the same time. They can make some changes now. It's Color Hex was playing Symmetra there for a bit. Usually if you see the Symmetra, maybe you have it, you know, being able to use the teleporter, get a Bastion up on the high ground, but they swept off the Symmetra as well.
I think they were being pressured too hard and they knew.
So this is the composition we saw the Shock Run the other day with the triple tank, triple support, but you have, instead of Brigitte, you have the Batista.
Well, Blaze having to use a bit more right click than left click at the moment, and that. Now just try and work back. Ivy now going to get that barrage across the point. Color Hex got bite grenaded as well, and Defiant get everything they need. Another snowball here this time from the other side of the fence. Blaze will be pressured back, sent back to spawn, and Kelex doesn't really even get onto the point. Hacked immediately. Yakpong there, just going to leave a present outside the front door. Both teams, Matt, transition out of strong A attacks.
There ain't no defense here today. So, see, Toronto able to take both points there. Even more time remaining than the Uprising as Toronto completes Hanamura with 4 minutes in 30 seconds in the time bank. Pretty impressive time.
1 minute between the two. We'll be back with overtime. Like you said, Matthew, it seems that neither of these two teams are able to get much success out of their defensive setups. Although bear in mind, Boston were almost held on point A. They almost didn't even take point A. They just were able to transition very effectively to point B and have a time bank here.
Yeah, so Toronto will be on defense here to kick things off. Nothing surprising. Same thing they ran on their last defensive stand. It seems like for the Uprising, we're going to see the same exact thing they ran on their offense. So you'll have a Hanzo in play here instead of the Tracer. It's like kind of the two differences between the teams this far.
You can see what Blaze did on the screen is exactly why Hanzo is included in this composition. Large amounts of damage in short spaces. He's not trying to pick one off with it, but Ivy was looking for Color Hex. Could be a resurrect here. Ivy tried to interrupt it there. That was quite clever. Kelex probably will still get that off. really trying to bleed the clock here from the Uprising as they do have less of a time bank.
You just constantly see Fusions just rolling to the point, trying to force the rotation out of Toronto from that high ground. They really want to force them back out onto the point, like into one of the corners. The high ground's going to be very difficult to beat.
I'm 37, just lasers down Color Hex as he tried to peek to an upper area. And now with RCK going down, Fusions realizes there's no further point. He might be able to stay alive, but it'd be wasting time.
It's going to be a way different roster, but you see that, Boston's been pretty successul on assault maps in the past. The worst one being Hanamura with only like a 25% win rate. Way different roster, but still, doesn't look good for them thus far. As Neko build up his amplification matrix, you walk into the bash with the amplification matrix here on the high ground. Player's going to be dropping pretty quick.
Boston have been able to force Toronto to rotate to the point, but with 3 players hit by a body grenade, it's a bit risky for him. They're ready to go now, and once again, Ivy takes out Color Hex on Farah. Boston losing a very important part of the pincer map that they're trying to apply to point A.
Well, I mean, when you lose, you need the Farah because a lot of the damage for Boston's coming with the Hanzo kind of bursting down the shield and the Farah being able to get up in the sky and get these flanks off us. They have no clue that RCK is here up on the high ground.
CMP needs to be big. Dragon Strike came out already, so you see, there it is, the invincibility matrix. Gonna be taken down now. So Neko has that one destroyed. Fusion's able to push forward now, and I'm 37 while he was hacked up, couldn't do anything about it. You see what Fusions did there? Right in the doorway, throws a minefield down. The only player from Toronto that could contest was Envy. And he does do that. Fusions wanted to push in though and get aggressive on the contingent of the Defiant players who were prevented from accessing the point. Color Hex, well, okay, gets himself a nano boost here. He needs to get his hands a little bit dirty, fly maybe a little bit closer to the ground. Barrage from Ivy with Color Hex responds with one of his own. Never barrage first, apparently. And 3 for Color Hex over the course of that fight. Signify Boston finally breaking Toronto's hold on the point. Toronto now with some switches.
Yeah, Toronto makes changes. It's not going to work here on point B. See if I'm37 stays on the Soldier 76. Yakpun goes over to play some Winston. Neko switches off of Batista to play Ana here. So Ana pretty strong on point B. You're able to set up on the high ground or all the way in the back of the spawn. They get the healing. Boston switches over. Looks like we're going to see even more switches.
Switch here because RCK has just gone inside that point B area on the Sombra and just reported back.
And Color Hex goes for McCree here, so you have the McCree to try and deal with the Farah up in the high ground and also the 76 at range. So looks like now Fusion's going to go back, switch off of Reinhardt, go back to Wrecking Ball, which he had originally. There's some time wasted here for Boston, but getting the composition they need.
At least this time, they're not defending when they make this sort of switch. Risk giving up control.
But how are you getting this McCree in with no shielding?
Well,
I guess you could use the immortality field.
That's sleep dart.
Sometimes,
not good. Oh, there's so much damage. The body grenade lands as well. Color Hex roll forward. I don't know how we saw Yakpum there. Fender Hammer though does heal the kill to the Winston, but it's a 5v4, make it a 5v3 now in this fight. Color Hex 2 kills on McCree, but he needs to do a lot more. Now we've got Bio Grenade, and he found 3 in that fight. Desperate struggle from the New Zealander, but it wasn't really enough to break open the Defiant. They lost too many players early. And it was Neko with a sick sleep dart to open that fight up. Now Blase is going to try and make something happen here with Fusion's adaptive shield. Not enough to keep him alive. RCK throws himself at the point. EMP catches 2. Yakung and Ivy are EMP'd, but that's it. And the rest of the Uprising are trying to filter back in, but Ivy's being the bouncer here. He pushes forward with Neko. And the Defiant will hold here. No snowball on the point B this time for Boston.
McCree lacks mobility. And I just wonder how, usually when you see McCree there, you're kind of going to try and push the high ground, get up on that big bridge overlooking the point. How do you do that against the constant spam of the Farah coming through? You have the biotic grenades coming from the Ana on the other side. And also just kind of like the consistent damage at 76% without a shield.
Makes you wonder.
Get him into that position.
Makes you wonder if Fusions was well advised switching off that Reinhardt and going for the Wrecking Ball instead for that push. Once Color Hex can get into B or get some high ground, once he's in position, that's when the tables turn. He can really start to pressure Ivy down, who then doesn't have any safe sight lines to peek from. He'd have to try and sneak up on the McCree, but this is that sleep dart that really started things off here. Blase definitely won't be happy about this one. Straight in. I mean, it's your Batista goes down. You absolutely need that immortality. And then, well, it's free real estate and free damage. There was no shield there. Fusions was elsewhere trying to, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean,
just to set something up and find his own picks.
I think you potentially saw the wrecking ball there from Fusions because you did have RCK getting close to the EMP, so you EMP, you dive a target, you're able to force them back onto the point. Maybe that's how you get your McCree into the position, but it's very tough. As you see on the defensive side from Boston, they'll be running that bunker composition. We see it's pretty strong on assault maps.
Tracer from 37 once more. Again, he and Envy are going to try and pull the Boston Uprising back to the point. Give the Defiant a bit more space to work with on A and allow them to be the ones that could sort of out-rotate, try and go for a multi-pronged attack on point A. 4 minutes and 10 seconds in the clock for them, so they've got a bit to work with here.
Envy gets that health pack under his control all the way in the back, so you'll have that to be able to just constantly run back to if you're I'm 37 or Envy, as both those players get on the point. Somebody, the issue is that like you can't just have RCK go back, because if he gets hacked from one side, he just gets burst down by I'm 37 from the other.
In the past, D.Va was sufficient to deal with this kind of thing, but AimGod's already down. Ivy finding the pick. Again, Ivy, so important on this map so far, man. He's been dominating the Farah matchup, finding those important engagements, and now the Defiant are pretty much home and hosed, especially with Yakun pushing forward now. Hex has to do something. He finds a kill, but that's it.
That was the worst possible scenario there for Boston. They're able to kill AimGod on the other side, so you get rid of the Batiste. And then when Kellex goes through the res trying to fly across, because they're playing from the opposite side, he actually gets hacked. So you lose both of those supports really quick. Good push there from the Toronto Defiant.
Boston's serious, no more messing around. They do have the Symmetra, so they are, even if they don't feel like they have enough time, RCK just trying to keep I'm37 out while they set this up. They will send their team to the high ground. They'll play a bunker. With a caveat, it's even harder to access than the bunker on point A. And we'll see, again, the flankers for the Defiant, really important here. Yakpung also will need to find an engagement that will be very risky because AimGod will have an immortality field to throw down on the high ground. They don't have a Hanzo for a Dragon Strike to displace the Boston Uprising.
Yeah, they're going to have to wait for like the EMP to EMP them up. Hex picks up 937. He barely gets back to the respawn there to get his HP back. But I think you're going to need to play around this EMP, maybe even just wait until you get Yakpung's minefield. Dart up their EMP, minefield, force them down, and then maybe you hit like, you know, a big rocket barrage, let's say, but I'm 37 switches off a Tracer. There's no need for the Tracer here as you can't access that high ground.
Boston giving a lot of space. Here's that EMP now. Blase can't use his Sentry Mode configuration. His damage greatly reduced, and it works out perfectly. The barrage to follow up. AimGod's gone down. His immortality field did not last long. Ivy, he thought he was safe with that one. He tried to break line of sight up on that little balcony. It may not really make a huge difference though. Fusions has to hold on now. There's going to be some respawn pressure here. You can see that amplification matrix being thrown in the back corner, which means the Defiant would be crazy to try and contest in the open. Neko and Yakpung waiting around the corner here. The matrix has now got Ivy still pressuring from the high ground. They haven't done anything to deal with this Farah. Kellex uses the bubble of the fallen Fusions to resurrect him. Now Yakpung needs to deal with his backline, but he's taking damage from every which angle. Fusion's far too tanky for him to deal with now. He fortified so he wouldn't get knocked up. That's a Genji from Hex. He made the switch over here, and Boston are able to adapt.
Again, the amplification matrix from AimGod. I know a lot of people get out of the way, right, because it's all that damage coming through, but it also amps the healing, and you're able to keep Fusions alive on the point. Fusions was getting low, the Orisa on the point for the Boston Uprising.
Putting an Ana behind that?
Yeah, you put the Ana behind it. You have, you know, if you did have an Ana in play, but you know, Batiste is good enough, right, to just provide those heals. So now the changes come in for Boston. You make the changes go back to where you were originally running. You know, after the stall happens, they don't even gain it. You know, they don't even gain the tick they needed. I mean, they only needed one tick here to take the map. They don't even make progress.
Boston realized that. Their margin of error is so slim that they need to play probably the most powerful defensive setup. So essentially, the Defiant are honestly waiting on I'm37 to get a Dragon Strike here. I mean, that and an EMP is the only way they're really going to shift the Uprising from this purge and give themselves a fighting chance against them. Hex getting harassed in the back, party grenade thrown at RCK, but just okay then! Yakpung drops in with a pile driver and he's got two! Kellex went down first, no resurrect, and Blase was second! With a wrecking ball, the Defiant have opened this fight up! In a flash, it was over! In a flash, the map was the Defiant's!
Yeah, it's going to be Yakpung going up to the high ground. He had the nano boost on him, and then he goes with the pile driver, makes his way down to the point. Used just the wrecking ball to get to the high ground to steal the map.
I guess they didn't need Dragon Strike, and I guess they didn't need Grab either, Ivy. That's right, I'm talking to you. Half time coming up.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. High ground or low ground, T-Mobile has you covered.
The Toronto Defiant are looking to cap off a perfect 2-0 week. They're currently taking care of business so far, up 2-0 over the Uprising at the half. Welcome back into the Blizzard Arena. These guys know to cheer, right? It's halftime. We're doing 4 matches. We're going to get it by the third one. It's Bucket. I got the crew with me. We've got Sideshow. We've got Hexagrams. And currently, as we mentioned, a 2-0 lead for the Defiant. But both these teams, they've already won one match this week. They're looking for a second one. Boston in the hole. They pulled off the reverse sweep last time. Yeah. They might be able to do it. But there's one problem right now. They got to shut down one of the snipers on the other side. Who's causing problems right now for the Defiant?
It's the speedrunner. You know, Overwatch done quick, it so seems. Like, we got IM37 just crushing on this Widow, and he's going against a guy who's also a very good Widow in his own right in ColorX, who had amazing stats. But you got all of these really quick headshots, and these aren't the flashy 2 or 3 Ks, but 1 kill will usually win you a fight in Overwatch. And he went 4 kills on his opposing sniper, whereas ColorX only got him twice, and that just eliminates a threat from the other side.
There's 1v1. Yeah. Big fights.
What I'm most impressed about with IM37 as well is you wouldn't expect a rookie coming into the league with... he's literally stepped off an airplane 2 days ago. Yeah. Well, he's got no business putting up such consistent results. And yet he's coming out here and he's dominating some of the best snipers that we know are in the league. Like, for example, ColorHex. I mean, ColorHex is no slouch. It's got to be said, like you said, Hex. Yeah. He's actually one of the better Widowmakers that we've seen, one of the better Widowmaker rookies, that is, as well, because ColorHex is new as well. But IM37 should not be just, like, dominating other Widowmakers fresh off an airplane.
He was on an open division team a month ago. Like, this is path to pro, and it's purest form, I suppose.
Handling the pressure pretty well, I think is safe to say. Toronto looking in control of this match, even though Boston was able to cap 3. You saw 4 coming in for the Defiant on Hanamura. Let's talk about the defense, though. How do they keep it difficult for Boston? What are they doing?
Well, we're starting to see a trend, I think, with a lot of the Hanamura defenses, and we're also seeing it on like maps like King's Row as well, and a couple of the other assault maps, where teams are running this Bastion Batiste. So I've got an Insights powered by Intel where I'm going to break down what was so good about Toronto's defense here. Because this is the classic setup that you see all the time on Hanamura. You've got a poke composition designed to take down the Orisa shields, but this Bastion Batiste setup is the main focus. And it takes so much time off the clock. A minute and a half has already gone, and they're only now in a position to use the EMP. So they start poking, they see if they can do it. Okay, the Orisa gets booped off the high ground. This is now their time to engage, and they have to be able to get this. So all of their focus is going to be around taking down that Bastion. So as the Orisa comes back up the top, EMP comes in, but it's Neko with an incredible immortality field, which I'm going to go over in some first-person footage afterwards. But the aim here for Boston is to hack them, get the Dragon Strike through. All of these players in the building up top should be dead, except for Neko, who comes through with this fantastic play. He realizes the EMP's in, dodges out of the way just as RCK comes in, throws down the immortality field, keeps everybody alive. Look at the health in the corner. I'm 37, down to that 45 HP, heals them all back up. It's so unbelievably clutch. We're going to rewind this to watch
Do it again. Do it
Look
again.
how close he is to being caught by the EMP. And this is pretty much the only fight that Boston have to win. So he sees RCK, dodges just around the corner here, and chucks out that immortality field. If he chucks it out too early, it's going to get hacked. It won't have any use. So if you're playing Batiste and you're playing against a Sombra, it's so important that you keep that in your head, that your immortality field is the counter, but you've got to make sure you don't get caught by the hack as well.
It's kind of like the Lucios back when they had to hide away from the EMP, then drop the sound barrier. Nice to see
Exactly,
it coming in from a new support hero. Neko just playing against his old team.
He loves
Seems
it.
popping off. It's
pretty good at it.
I'm liking it. Well, you picked Boston in the pre-show.
I did.
Josh, are you 2 for 2 potentially if they win one more game?
You know, I'm pretty good at this
Yeah,
prediction.
he went with Toronto. So let's talk Hex here. How does the Uprising get back in this series? They pulled off a reverse sweep in their first match of the week.
I mean, how does the Uprising do anything? With smoke and mirrors, trickeration, no one could really understand Boston. You just have to embrace Boston and what they do. I think they can get good play out of their DPS. I think that RCK can actually play a really good Sombra, so I'd expect it. They already reverse swept once this week. They're just making it interesting for the crowd.
Josh, easy win here for Toronto?
I think Toronto are going to seal this up. I think they might throw them a bone, maybe one map, but this is the Toronto Defiant, proving that they are perfectly happy to play in this meta as well as the last.
All right, Blizzard Arena, are you guys ready to watch some more video games? Yeah, it's time for some more Overwatch League. We'll be right back, game number 3 after this.
They don't just play for a team. They play for every fan, every rival, every moment, every match. And when everyone watching expects the best, they perform with the best.
So far, ladies and gentlemen, the Boston Uprising seem to be faring about as well as they did last time they played against the Toronto Defiant. not particularly well. Down 0-2 in this series already, trying to go for a very sophisticated, very high IQ bunker composition on Hanamura there on second, which was eventually broken by the Uprising, by the Defiant in a flash. It happened very quickly.
Yeah, you had a, you get the nano boost on Wrecking Ball, fly right up to the high ground, the pile driver. So devastating, and then when he goes to the low ground, just grapples on, gets that like speed boost, and just goes right through another player. Good use of the nano boost there onto the wreck.
We were thinking, in fact, that the Toronto would just try and move the Uprising before they actually started fighting, but they had the power, they had the damage to end it right there. And then Eichenwald is going to be our next map. One which we've seen teams primarily showcase map a little bit more of a standard setup, 3-3. However, in the past on this map, we've seen Widow, we've seen Pharah, we've seen Sombra. Plenty of those.
I mean, all Boston has to do is reverse sweep, just like they did the other day. Pretty easy, right?
That would be their, what, third in a row? Third reverse sweep in a row. So Uprising already having won this map once. We'll see if the Defiant have the show us here. They have not played it yet.
It's kind of wild. Toronto wins this, they potentially move to 7-2. Like, the way I feel like we talk about them and like how we talk like they're not really an underdog, they're just kind of like gone under the radar. Like, it doesn't feel like a 7-2 type of team, right?
Jay will still tell me they're underdogs.
Yeah.
Still tell me that.
The triple tank on defense with a Pharah. We saw in Season 1, Pharah gets some play on defense on Eichenwald. Yeah, you're able to just play around that big center pillar, just hide from some of the hit scan on the other team. Looks like Boston makes a change. Now is going to go back to the spawn, and looks like we're going to change
Another
again.
change. This is our third option in the Uprising. So again, we kind of saw this on Busan, the Roadhog inclusion to deal with flankers. I don't really know what Blase is.
So now we're trying to. Now we're switching again. So now we're switching Aingard from Zen to Ark.
Right. Watch RCK switch though.
So now we get RCK going back to the spawn. He'll play Diva.
I guess RCK only just really was able to scout properly here. So the Uprising have lost 50 seconds. 50 seconds has passed before they've really had an engagement here. Yakpung down early. That's a pretty darn good start. They managed to catch Yakpung out of position. And it looks like this careful planning for the Boston Uprising sets them off to a good start. Again, they're looking for their third reverse sweep in a row, which would be a record. Color Hex down to Ivy. Ivy must have been trying to flank a little bit, but Angol was able to deal with him there. And the Defiant, Matt, I don't really think they have any business trying to contest this at all. Too many players picked off. This is uncharacteristically sloppy from this otherwise very solid, fundamentally strong Defiant.
You know, you see the changes paying off for Boston.
I love it.
It takes them 50 seconds to make them, but if it works, it doesn't matter, right? As I think when they see Yakpung running the Winston for the Toronto Defiant, I think Yakpung has he does die early in a lot of these fights, and I think one way you can really take advantage when you don't have like a brig in for the stuns or whatnot is you bring in Roadhog, and Roadhog's able to just burn through the Winston.
Ivy, he's staying very close to this on the top of this building for a flank. Color Hex, no way he was going to be getting out of that one. Ivy getting two, perhaps more than he ought to have gotten, but the Uprising were a little bit too slow to respond. They didn't really have much time, I'll be honest with you. RCK chased out Ivy, saluting. He knows he was going to struggle. Aid having resurrected Yakpung means that Ivy won't return, but the Uprising have been held at bay.
I mean, his bar has been great today.
All series, man.
Yeah. That gives Toronto some control of the payload of the doorway here. Well, M37 did have Graviton Surge, not able to stay alive and use it as Blase uses whole hog and to push Yakpung back into the corner. So 2 early pickoffs here, making 3 now for Boston. They'll start to get the payload moving.
I don't think the Defiant were ready for how aggressive Uprising would push out of that choke. M37 got melted down really fast in that fight. And we talked about it last stage, how important Xayah is to be alive late in the fight with high energy. Color Hex on the Widowmaker here. Equal parts scouting and trying to find that first kill. He won't be getting too much here. Grappling and getting on the low ground also means that his sightlines are going to be kind of limited right now.
Ivy moves over and he'll play Brigitte. That's going to be the Graviton Surge. Self-destruct coming down as well.
Oh, Envy, he's inside the bubble with Fusions trying to protect himself, but self-destruct was well placed. RCK going to try for one of his own, but it does nothing to pacify the Defiant, who've come alive now on defense. Boston Uprising once again. Sent back to spawn.
Yeah, the Graviton Surge self-destruct out of Toronto. You also had Neko hit a sleep on Kellex at long range, where, Kellex not able, he was very close to sound barrier, and may have ended up using it if he stayed alive a little bit longer, but he actually gets hit with the sleep dart. taken out. So now Boston switches things up. They're going to play the Sombra version, you know, of Goats. So they switch over to Reinhardt as well.
Ivy on the brick will definitely be something RCK needs to avoid. Yakpung getting caught. Envy trying to use the defense matrix, but it doesn't really protect Yakpung from the swings of fusions. And Ivy looks like he was carved off the rest of the Defiant. They're caught out of position. Yakpung now going down. And look, this is what happens with a Winston-based tank-heavy composition against Reinhardt. If the Uprising are able to get, you know, involved in the fight, it's tough for the Defiant to do too much there in head-to-head.
I wonder if Toronto decides to switch it up or they hold on to this. Looks like they're going to keep playing Winston here, at least for the end of this point. I think Boston takes this. You'll see the switch come in for Toronto.
Neko flanking all the way behind here. I think he tried to sleep dart RCK, but that flank, wow, didn't really work out at all here. The Toronto Defiant looks like they were trying to go for a gambit with an out-of-position Ana. Not enough.
No, maybe you could have came on a flank if you're Neko there and hit like a big biotic grenade as Yakpung switches over to Reinhardt. He actually gets the forward spawn, dashes all the way back. But Boston does have a nice ultimate advantage though coming into this fight because you'll be able to use this EMP, Graviton Surge. You just had Yakpung switch over to Reinhardt, so no Earth Shatter build-up.
You can EMP Shatter here. You might not even need to grab. The Uprising have 2-5. Oh, RCK! Stunned up as he tried to go for the EMP. Ivy was watching his every move. Sound barrier now from the Toronto Defiant. They start the fight well. Boston have their engaged tools stripped from them, along with their dignity. And again, back to spawn they go.
And look at how fast the Yakpung is built up to this Shatter. He comes into that last fight basically at 0 and just switch over to Reinhardt at like 6%. He gets a nano boost. The Graviton Surge comes down from I'm37, and you're able to just build up to that Shatter so fast.
Well, that suite of ultimates that the Uprising had up their sleeve is all but gone. Ivy has been a monster on every role so far in this match. Now over towards Zaya. I'm 37, I'll play the Brigitte. And I'm sure he'll just pound on that one as well. Fusion will be looking for an Earth Shatter here, there's no doubt about it. Early bubble use for Yakpung here. Yakpung went for the Shatter, they catch Blase. There's probably enough here. The Brig's out of the picture. I'm 37, gonna hide around the left side corner and stay alive. But Yakpung, I think he wants to brawl a little bit here. RCK and A locked in a duel, and the rest of the Uprising have already headed for the hills.
I think this is the down, like when you kind of rely on the Sombra composition. We've seen, you know, some players come out and just say like, when teams rely on the Sombra version of Goats, that they feel like it's just like they can't play the actual, you know, with the D.Va in play. They just don't have that coordination. So we'll see if this doesn't work for Boston. I know after this EMP, maybe they decide to switch, try things out with the D.Va.
How do you stay invisible, Matt, right now? RCK, doesn't want to really do this. He's going to go over the top, go for that EMP. 6-man EMP, everyone connects with him. Fusion gets the Earth Shatter to follow up. They had to wait for RCK to get that ultimate again, but this time,
well, I mean,
they find the mark.
Now you do have Graviton Surge to like lock them to spawn, potentially Transcendence. So now you're looking good here if you're Boston.
Fine, a lot of switches for them, so their old economy is somewhat compromised right now. But Echo took a big hit trying to get out of spawn in the first place. Colorhex waiting for his target here for that Graviton Surge. I'm37 is forced to keep his shield up. A Fusion to Blase already reaping what they've sowed. And Ivy does shave about a minute and a half off the clock just by shield bashing RCK, preventing that EMP from working out. But the Boston Uprising are determined to stay in this game, to try and get themselves a win here, make another reverse sweep attempt. And it starts here. We'll have the second half of this map right in a moment.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Well, wicked smart ult combos from the Boston Uprising in the last moments there. EMP and a Shadow and a Graviton for Color Hex to seal the deal. Could have had it earlier, Matt. Defiant, though, getting that big stun. I mean, it's so hard to play Sombra in such close quarters when any bit of stray damage, any projectile could reveal you at any moment.
I love how during the break, when you looked out on stage, it was just Fusions just talking the entire time. As soon as the camera goes on, not saying a word.
I think he knows he's already gained a reputation for himself.
Yeah.
It's too late, Fusions. It's too late, man.
All right, so they're going to run a little bit of an interesting version of like the bunker comp. So don't have a D.Va in the mix. So it looks like they're going to play up on the high ground, back by the point. And you're going to have the Sombra in play here. So Kellex will actually play the Batiste here instead of Aim God. So they're going to play the Batiste as a true main support.
It seems like Blase and RCK are intended to be bait here, because Blase and RCK can't really get back up on the high ground that easily. They don't. It's not like a D.Va can just fly up there.
I mean, they can play around the mini health pack, but they can also, when the players come around the corner and they're weak, they can finish those players off, right? So,
following up on the damage from the Bastion. Bastion normally is the alpha strike and then the cleanup from your flankers. But Ivy's so safe here, man. He's so safe in his position. Neko down, so that is exactly what's happening. So the Defiant are seeing the bait of Fusions and Color Hex, and RCK and Blase are able to find unaware players from the Defiant, getting their head to turn the other way.
Neko makes a change. He'll actually go over and play Ana here, as you did get a pick late here from I'm 37 on the Aim God. So no Zenyatta in the mix, so no Discords or whatnot.
It's just Kellex here on the Batiste for the moment. RCK going down here, getting caught a little bit too fast. This time, the Defiant baited the flankers from the Uprising. They knew they'd eventually be looking for those targets. Yakpung hung around. Immortality Field being used, but Color Hex is still low on health. We still need to get some of that back. And up 37, this is very confident. And look, he can just circumvent this amplification matrix by going in behind. Color Hex needs to stay alive here. Oh, he gets on 37 just by turning around. And it works out. The Bastion right now is holding the fort. Color Hex, you can't heal right now, my friend. He has to stand inside that Immortality Field. Blase will pick up the slack for him. 3 for the Tracer. Uprising playing a defensive strategy that has multiple focal points. Toronto not sure which one to apply pressure to at any given moment.
Well, the issue is if you play the flankers and you try and put pressure onto the Bastion up on the high ground, you're leaving your supports really vulnerable to the flankers of the Boston Uprising. So, see, Boston could do something like with like a counter EMP. Let's say they try and come up onto the point, try and put pressure. Boston could get like a counter EMP off as they're trying to dive in.
As the EMP, airborne, in fact, he wanted to catch Ivy with that one, and he does, sure enough. Pulse bomb from Blase, though, deals with it. Both Sombras now are missing. Color Hex start firing down range now. Neko 1 shot away from Oblivion, and Color Hex connects. Call in the mortars. Yes, Overwatch logo, crouch, crouch, crouch. We all know what that means, right?
Yep, we do. A lot of ultimates used there, though, for the Boston Uprising. I mean, you do have, I guess, the damage coming through here from the Supercharger that'll come through from Fusions, but with a lot of area to hide here, how does Envy connect with everybody with this EMP? A lot of line of sight. It looks like Kellex is hiding right now. Now, you know, he actually does not get hit by that, so they get the... Oh,
that's still huge. Ivy drops for 3. Yes, the Immortality Field was up, but again, there was no healing. The healers were EMP'd as well. The Defiant can just walk in and take that one.
And I was like, he gets it off, and then it was dead within seconds, and then the barrage comes through. It's a nasty combo. So it's obviously not as good, like, let's say if you're hiding with like a Transcendence. You can't be like eliminated out of Transcendence, but the Immortality Field seems like teams have a really good sense of, you know, when they don't connect with the Batiste, with the EMP, they find the Immortality Field right away. They take it out. There's nothing you can do after that.
It's interesting. For the second time in this series, the Uprising put together this elaborate defense setup. The Defiant eventually break it by being anything but subtle. Just throwing themselves in, using the nano boost, just like, well, just go and ult them. Sometimes the brute force option is the best.
We were talking a little bit about this during our break, but I'm 37 was playing Zarya for a lot, then Ivy was playing the break. Now they decided to change things up. They changed it up towards the end there, in the last half. Now they changed it up here on their offense as Nano Boost comes down here on the Fusion, just putting down a ton of damage on Winston.
He's been very careful. He knows he doesn't have primal rage, so he can't go into the backline, but he can continue to find and bait. It's going to have to be enough. He was probably hoping for Color Hex to be able to find a kill amongst all the Chaos Fusions. That's an overextension. The Uprising, it's not all doom and gloom because they have the high ground still. But now without Fusions there, I'm quite sure that Defiant would look to try and remedy that. Look at them flanking around the backside here.
Yeah, they're trying to put a lot of pressure on the color hexes.
He's been forced out. Now the Defiant have the high ground.
Yaku's still staying there, trying to put that pressure on the color hex. He's all back.
Bonate on Blase. And that's going to be the self-destruct over the top. Neko is caught out from that one, and the Boston Uprising again getting rid of 2 supports back. That looks very good for them. Obviously, the reason why I thought Blase getting naded was a big deal is because we can't heal. That's what he does. Yakpung, though, can eat the whole hog.
You know, I think it's just like it's an interesting trait there. Color Hex makes a switch over to Zarya now, so you'll have 4 tanks in play for Boston.
4 tanks.
But, you know, he's playing the Widowmaker, and Yakpung goes all the way back to the spawn, pretty much, to just try and put pressure on him, pressure him out. And you do lose Color Hex, but he lives long enough to pull the Winston so far away that there's not an impact for the Winston in the overall fight.
Fusion scouted out for the Defiant, trying to push up through the castle proper. Now a Primal Rage. This is going to be very good to separate. Color Hex doesn't go over the edge. Not entirely, at least, but he is. The rest of his team, Ivy was the one who got knocked over by Fusion. See, those two were dueling out. You see Fusion's definitely wanted to try and carve a couple players off, and now Envy's going to set in the self-destruct here. What protection is there? Not enough, apparently. As Blase goes down to the blast, Fusions knows he's done. He allows Ivy to laser him down, and a bit of stall here from RCK trying to make himself hard to hit, but he is a large target. He will be dispatched.
But these are the fights that Boston wants in this type of situation. Now they switch over to Reinhardt, which they view as the favorable composition versus the Winston. And they force out some ultimates from the Toronto Defiant, where now you come back, you do have a nano boost, a self-destruct to use here. Self-destruct good on this part of the map to clear some players out.
It's huge on this part, especially against the team that frankly doesn't have a static shield. It's just Winston.
That is a big charge.
Sizable. Fusions goes in. Characteristic aggression showing through. He doesn't find a kill despite, like, he almost had the pin on I'm37, so that's a nano boost committed to. No tangible effect, but there's only 20 seconds left, so the Defiant still need to push through this facade or otherwise of aggressiveness from the Boston Uprising, and RCK may be the guy to save the day. Color Hex has almost built up a Graviton surge. Things are about to get heavy now. Ivy caught up in the Graviton. He has to go for one of his own, but the self-destruct being thrown in over the top by a grenade. Good shield from Yakpung. Timing was enough to keep his team alive from the blast, and now the Defiant want to push forward even more. Fusions is low, forced to keep his shield up and try and back away a little bit, but Ivy getting aggressive on top of that payload. We're going to keep coming for it here. He gets nano boost, and the Zarya doing an extremely large amount of damage to Fusions with the Shatter. He finds 2, and that's enough. In fact, it was 3. Envy knocked down by the grenade on him, and Aid also was knocked over the edge for Ivy. Blase gets the whip out, and the Boston Uprising, this is where it begins for them. On defense, they're holding outside of this second point right now, and Yakpung, desperate as he is, jumping back into the fray, but it's just him and Aid. He's put to sleep, then the Graviton surge is applied. Envy's too far away to do anything but look on.
And Neko was the main source of healing there for Toronto towards the end. Aim God jumps by the payload and hits a cross-bridge sleep dart on the Neko, puts him to sleep. Not able to get any healing there for the Defiant. Big hold from Boston.
There's a chance now for the Uprising to stay in this series. Map 4, just around the corner.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. High ground or low ground, T-Mobile has you covered.
Well, first steps have been taken for the Boston Uprising to put together what would be their 3rd reverse sweep in a row, which would be a record-breaking stat at that. However, we move now to a map they have played the Defiant on before, Matt. It's Rialto, and Toronto were the better team on that day.
I mean, Boston just trying to get some extra games with RCK in, right? You know, you had him in a little bit late. Don't have a lot of scrim time. I'll just consistently play these 5-game series during the week.
It's been pretty hard to fault him
Yeah.
so far in this series once again. Doesn't seem to be suffering from any jitters, doesn't seem to be suffering from any difficulty to integrate with this team. It's just been hitting the ground running. I mean, it's the same
in a flex tank role. I think it's much harder in the flex tank role than like I'm 37 in terms of DPS on the side of Toronto, right?
Well, you have to. Where do you slot into the communications? You know, if you're a tracer player, or I am 37, depending on what role he's sort of taking up, it might be different. But you know, if you watch sort of Space discuss his role on a recent piece of content released by the league, he says that I've got to watch over the entire team. I have to watch our backline and frontline simultaneously, and my tank has to put all his trust in me that I'm, again, covering all my bases.
I think it's between like Fusion's RCK and the supports, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that they probably got pretty comfortable with Note, how he was doing things, and then RCK comes in, maybe he has a different view, and then it changes some lines of communication. But it seems like on defense here for Boston, they'll come out with a quad tank again. So some teams run like the bunker with the Arisa and Matisse. This time we're going to see quad tank here as they're going to get right up on the card.
All right, the classic setup here. Boston only hovered quad tank for a very short moment on Archinvolve, but this time they're going to try and set themselves up. We've seen this from multiple teams. They want to try and give themselves a good second fight if the attackers push forward. And Blaze's looking for flankers, waiting for flankers, or perhaps for Ivy to hover a little too low.
He's trying to see maybe somebody going all the way around, but now he's coming out on the flank as Ada getting out of the way right away. Yakpung now will switch over to Arisa, and you're going to have I'm37 playing the Bastion here. They want to get right up and get a lot of pressure on.
I'm37 forced to repair himself there. Actually gets away despite getting hooked early on. Not for long, though. Blaze finishes him off with a scrap gun. Fusion's shield is very low, but they have forced the Defiant to back away for a time. There's a chance for the Reinhardt from Boston to get the energy charge back up on that barrier.
And that immortality field was gone in seconds. Kellex on the Lucio able to take that out. I think as time goes on, you're going to have to get more creative with the placement of it, like not just like around a corner or whatnot, make it too easy. It's going to be the amplification matrix here used by Neko.
A lot of damage there. Remember, Arisa really doing a lot of extra damage with that amplification matrix as well, and I'm37 has already found 2. Ivy with 1. And he does go down to Color Hex, but that's it. The Boston Uprising are finally shifted from their positions, but they force at least some ultimates from the Toronto Defiant, and will have a chance to regroup with theirs.
So you stay on this if you are Boston. It looks like Aim God will play the Batiste now. So, oh, no, going back to Moira. So you're going to stay on the quad tank for now. I mean, you'll have, Grabber, Shatter, self-destruct here.
RCK's finish roots, walks in the team and says, we must honor my brothers with quad tank.
It's called a Pimsy over there.
Yeah, yo, NRP, where you at? Pimsy, come play hog, bro. Oh, RCK! All right, getting Ivy, but more importantly, getting the supercharger and getting rid of the immortality field at the same time. That's a lot of utility stripped away from the Defiant, and they lose the fight immediately.
As Aid was using Valkyrie during that. Valkyrie, not going to be much of a help as, here we go. It's like, well, I think what Vancouver does is smart, right? They have Bumper go on these flanks. Why don't we all just go on the flank with the Reinhardt? It's like, yeah, it's good.
Come in from over the top. Yakpung doesn't see it. They don't know where they are. Looks like the Uprising opts to play together on the payload here. That's why Aim God stays on Moira. You have 4 tanks. They're all playing close together. You're getting a lot of value out of your Biotic Grasp. Healing mode.
And I think if you're Fusions, you have to be just happy with like any kind of Shatter here with players just spread out all over the place.
Coalescence comes out, but a little bit too late by the looks of things. Blase already fell to Yakpung. RCK will get a little bit of healing, but he's forced to back away inside the building. Great line of sight for both his teammates and his opponents. Ivy, he wants the barrage right now, but the constant harassment of RCK on that upper ledge. Not able to dissuade him for the whole time, and there you go. He falls into the trap. RCK follows up on the kill. I'm37 is down. Neko and Aid, well, just trying to chill on the high ground, but they're healing each other instead of the rest of their team because they're not there.
And Toronto just trying to figure out how to break this quad tank setup as Neko goes over to Zenyatta. But, in our recent changes, the Discord orb adjusted, right? So it's not as, like, tank bustery as it was in the past. And Moira, has a little bit more sustain on her healing. The healing number is still very strong. Just gonna do it a little bit for longer here.
Blase trying to hook Ivy every time he sees him. It's hard. It's like trying to fish in a bird bath. But if he gets the Farah, it's pretty much over. No, you're not gonna catch it. Envy over the top. Oh, that's not a bad one at all. RCK, Calahex, Fusion's all caught by that one. Aim got faded just at the right time to get away from that one, but RCK is already desuited. Up37 trying to make something happen with a tactical visor, and he gets the desuited RCK. Not the highest priority target, but it's a target all the same. Aim got forced back. Neko really making use of that high ground position to get aggressive, and the Toronto Defiant finally break through, but now they're in overtime. The Uprising have bled 4 minutes off the clock just with his quad tank hold, and now they'll finally switch.
Well, you'll get another fight here as Color Hex going over to the Widowmaker. Maybe you get a pick here on Ivy, and then Fusions will play the Winston. So not really getting much value out of the Reinhardt with all these targets spread off. As Envy takes Color Hex out early.
Not ideal for the Uprising. They definitely need him to be safe in the background. Ivy's going to go for a trade, 1-for-1. Blase down, but he gets the barrage kill. Fusion's picking him off there. Aim God to the rescue now with a biotic grenade, and I'm37 had to play very far forward to try and find a kill. He doesn't get it. He's lucky he wasn't punished for that one. Again, RCK has he saved the day once more. He gets rid of Yakpong, the most durable target on the side of the Defiant. They don't have no staying power, Matt. No health pools to rely on. His aid has to just throw himself at it, but the Boston Uprising put a very impressive defense together here on Rialto. Just another step towards another reverse sweep opportunity. They're going to be feeling pretty good, and you can see some relief. RCK is probably not the kind of guy you're going to see a lot of emotion on his face.
Yeah.
But they have to be happy with that.
Interesting setups on defense coming out from Boston. So we talk so much about 3 tanks, 3 supports, and now bunker types of comps. But quad tank is a composition that was, oh man, how many years ago is that now? It's like, it was pretty strong, like...
Where were we? DreamHack.
Yeah, DreamHack, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, quad tank. It's a pretty strong composition. And now it seems like, with Moira's inclusion, right, they're able to... And now Roadhog, goes through some adjustments from, that time to now. Is, a little bit more tanky when you're, using his, take a breather ability. So, very interesting setup here. Boston going back, deep in the well, revisiting an old strat.
And that quad tank composition used to thrive on the back of Ana, having incredibly high healing output.
Which is kind of the same now as Moira, right? Like, exactly. Kind of high healing output.
Moira just has to play a little bit closer to those tanks, put herself at slightly greater risk, but again, she can fade out. It's an excellent escape ability. So the Toronto Defiant, they will go with the bunker setup here, Matt. The looks of things.
And how will the Boston Uprising answer this? They could play, Pirate Ship with a Bash on top of the cart. Kind of moving along. We saw the Guangzhou charge on Paris, different map type, but they tried like a double main tank with double shields with Batiste to try and do
the
that.
Defiant don't have flankers here to really punish Boston sort of tunnel visioning on the Bastion setup here. So that is one thing that might hurt them. Ivy is very important. He's intended to do more damage than Um37 because you expect Boston to just avoid the Bastion. Ivy needs to be, again, the other part of that prop, a pincer. That punishes them for their over-focus.
And with this position that I'm37's playing, you could actually use that Immortality Field probably inside and kind of ropes around. Catches in there, so you can hide that Immortality Field of Batiste. Not make it so easy to take out.
Fusion's down already here, so the Boston Uprising will have a slow start. Again, having Wrecking Ball as your main tank does change things up a lot, because often with Wrecking Ball, your main tank just isn't with the rest of your team. You don't have cover against snipers or a Bastion. Play a little bit different.
Toronto decides to move back here, give up some space to Boston.
Is this advisable?
In the previous fight, RCK got a hack off, but it was on to Envy, which is not the target he probably wanted. I thought that top position was going to give them an opportunity for another fight after. The Immortality Field used early here, just trying to keep Yakpong alive.
Trying to flank on 37 here. The Immortality Field maybe used a bit earlier than Toronto would have liked, maybe not for the reason. But now Boston Uprising have flankers. The Defiant don't have anything to take their attention away from the centerpiece of their composition, which is that Bastion of force.
Boston should get aggressive here and deny this resurrection, but it looked like Fusions was a little bit too low to be able to do that.
Neko trying to keep a safe distance here. He doesn't want to get taken out by Farah while he's busy paying attention to healing the rest of his team. Look, this is kind of dangerous. I'm37 playing so close around the corner. It's actually kind of easy for Boston to close the gap and jump on top of this Bastion.
Well, it doesn't allow Envy to kind of play with, the Bastion and the Orisa because he has to watch that side doorway where you see am looking towards as RCK getting ready to get a big EMP off.
This would open things up in a big way. Barrage to follow that up would be potentially a death sentence here. RCK pulls out though. It's going to be an ultimate forced out though. I'm37 goes for the tank configuration. Afraid probably that he wouldn't have had a chance if RCK had EMP there, but it's forced out either way. Dragon Strike cut through, but I'm37 is able to avoid it. But he's kind of playing on his own for the time being. He needs to back up more than he otherwise would like, whilst Yakpung is trying to deal with the main force of the Boston Uprising. There's the EMP. It only connects on Yakpung though. Ivy takes out Colorhex, and Yakpung, yeah, he's missing, but he was EMP'd. It's to be expected. Blase with a second in that fight, but Ivy's also contributing in his own way on his own side. Colorhex brought back into the fight now, and I'm37 down to a minefield. There was nowhere for him to go. Ivy has to pull the trigger now, and the Resurrect comes out onto Neko. Yes, Toronto don't bring the Bastion back, but they still have enough to assemble some sort of defense here, and Boston won't be able to push on this fight.
You do get Ivy down. That's going to be the supercharger that comes down here with the amplification matrix. So trying to really up the damage there.
No one's standing behind the matrix.
Yeah.
No one was putting damage on Colorhex. I'm37 returns to the fight as Widow, and he gets two. Farah and Mercy are both down, but I'm37 playing too close to aim dot, and he rolls up, gets 2 kills and finds both the sniper and the support. He gets 3. No one's pushing the payload for now, but the Toronto Defiant have been pushed all the way back to their spawn. Nothing Yakpung can do here, Matt, but try and hang around, use a Daphne shield to stay alive, but it's not enough. Oh, it's not enough at all! Map number 5 has been conferred to the Uprising once more. Rise to the challenge of staying in the series, but they are on the very edge of losing. We've got much more to see here, but Rialto definitely start to see that momentum build up for Boston, who benefited from that in a great way. Map 5 around the corner. Do not change the channel. For the third time in 3 matches for the Boston Uprising, they've managed to force it to a decider map, map 5 here. The Toronto Defiant really looking to show some dominance early on in this stage and set themselves up, but they have faltered at the last 2 maps. Rialto, very quiet from them.
It seems like
held.
You know, the bunker comp, I think, that a lot of teams run, I think that's kind of what you expect coming in. I think if you're Toronto, when they come out with this quad tank setup with the Roadhog, I feel like Blaze's been a big difference maker out of the hero.
I mean, yeah, switching towards the Hanzo, just to pressure M37 on the Bastion. A lot of options there for the Uprising. Blaze's been, I mean, which is great. I mean, it was between him, Color Hex, you know, well, between him and Color Hex mostly, and RCK, they've got a huge amount of options here.
Huge hero pools on all three of those players. I think also, we've seen Fusions play, you know, a good amount of all the tanks today, right? Some Reinhardt, Orisa, Winston, Wrecking Ball. So I think, just kind of looking at him as somebody who can only play the Reinhardt. Kind of see him evolve as we'll see what Boston decides to do. Don't expect AimGod here to be playing the Genji. That would be quite odd. As I'm 37, looks to be playing Soldier 76. Ivy still playing the Pharah. As his Pharah has been very good this series.
Just been really impressed with him in general. Over this entire map, he's still been good in maps where the Defiant have not done very well, I would say. He's not the issue here. So now into City Center, I mean, the high ground does pose opportunities for, you know, things like Soldier 76 or M37. Color Hex can play that Widowmaker, try and pressure Ivy and A down a little bit more. Blase Farah, I'm here for it.
So, you know, the 76 will be good for the consistent damage, but Color Hex is going to be able to just play here at range and see just the angles
he's
able to
just
get.
chilling! He's just hanging out in the back corner and he gets 3! No one was there to bother him, he didn't even reveal himself. How would the Defiant have known what was hurtling towards him at the speed of sound? But 3 bullets from Color Hex.
He just had a great reaction on stage as well. Like, after he hit the 3rd shot, he like kind of took his hand off the mouse hand and just kind of like a fist bump, like, yes, I did it. So
it's like the meme that all the baby boomers use with the baby in the fist.
yeah.
Love it.
RCK's hyping him up, like.
Hey, you got to gas your boys up.
Yeah.
Color Hex playing in the middle of the map now, so he's actually quite hard to see from here. Unless Yakpong can sort of shake him out, he's going to be kind of annoying. There's lots of angles he can peek from, but Kellex has already gone down. Yakpong, well, he drops ball on it. You see Blaze's looking low here. Blase doesn't want to ascend, but he can't descend anymore either. Yakpong! 3 kills for him in this fight. Again, been playing almost like a flanky DPS match, just looking for low health characters and taking them out.
But when you get control of this point early, you're able to usually hold on to it for a pretty long time. As Fusions had a nano boost, then used the Primal Rage. But look, I mean, he's chased around Color Hex so much, Fusions has actually picked up 2 eliminations during this.
And Matt, the Uprising is still in control of the point here. Fusions does go down, and Boston don't have to really spend too much to win that first fight out. Blase on the Tracer now, switching off the Farah. Color Hex to the 76 here. Just a little bit more mobility and self-sustainability or self-sufficiency for the DPS players for the Uprising.
Now you see both teams. Oh, it looks like I thought that Boss was going to mirror it, but no. Now Blase goes back to Tracer. So he was on Roadhog for a little bit, probably a discussion what they decided to do, but the only difference now is Kellex still playing Mercy because he's going to have this Valkyrie.
Oh, Yakpong's somehow still alive. No, he's not going to get away there. He got hacked up immediately.
He's so far away from the rest of his team. Not even a great angle to be able to heal at range here from Echo.
Now, Blase Color Hex can't really access the high ground. Fusions can and he will try to do so now. Putting some pressure on Tactical Visor for M37. Gets slapped in the middle of it. AimGod, a parting gift. Putting M37 to sleep now. And the Soldier 76 has to try and make an impact here, but that's a massive biotic grenade. Oh, AimGod getting rezzed up immediately. That was just unbelievable. Sick out of play, man. He does eventually go down after that, but I'm glad Kellex rezzed him because that bio grenade hits so hard.
Yeah, I mean, the Sleep Dart comes out and it connects on 937. You also had a hack go down when he gets the nano boost, plus Tac Visor, which that ultimate combo can be really deadly against this combination. Oh, actually, Ada gets hacked but takes out RCK. So you don't have that Sombra in play now.
Looks like RCK was trying to go for the Sport Camp to kind of mess him up, and he bit off a bit more than he could chew. That EMP means that Boston not really with much of a chance to win that engagement now. The best bet is to try and get out here as quickly as they can. Yakpong turns Kellex into roadkill. And then he sleeps it off, you know? Done a good job. It's been a hard day. Honest work.
One fight here, though, that Boston needs to go in their favor. Big ultimate advantage. Kellex now switches off of Mercy, will go over to Lucio, but you're going to have EMP, Nano Visor, a Pulse Bomb, potentially a Minefield, a ton to work with when you're in one-fight territory.
I desire brilliant tracking plus nano boost. That would be fun. Color Hex.
Looking for me?
Sold a 76 ultimate, hugely. There's no static shields on the Defiant, so, I mean, tactical visor, I don't know how long it's been since I've said this, but it's super good here. He goes for it, Calahex fires off the rocket just to try and get his ultimate ready here, but the Defiant scatter quickly, knowing exactly what they're trying to do. Calahex can't really get value out of that ultimate. The Defiant, very nice disengage. They saw what was coming, they were ready for it. Now Calahex has to try and run. Yakpung sleeping again. Body grenade gets dropped on him here, but the same is done to RCK and Calahex, and both go down as a result. Huge stuff from the Annals on both sides of the map. But Neko and Ivy are currently hacked. Calahex looking for his next foe, and he's found him. Neko could not run, could not hide, nor could IM37. Helix Rocket to follow up here, and Calahex is doing a heck of a lot of damage. Envy, don't know if he can get away. We'll try and translocate with a 76 here. But Calahex is looking pretty safe. Now trying to dodge and duck away from the damage of Yakpung, and he baits him in perfectly. The Defiant walk into that trap, and it is sprung. Envy falling down, Ivy trying to get there, but RCK was very comfortable dealing with that threat. And if Yakpung really is the rodent, that was the mouse trap for the Boston Uprising. Round 1 to them.
Yeah, Neko gets hacked, no opportunity to use his nano boost in that previous fight. And as soon as the hack goes off on him, or RCK obviously able to get the hack, he calls it to the rest of his team. He translocates out, and then Color Hacks and Blase come around on the 76 and Tracer to finish him off. So I think what I'm most impressed with from Boston is, obviously a lot of the different looks they have, but the teamwork and the coordination adding a new player in this fast.
Like a glove.
Fod Tank. Darren try and beat it.
I feel that. In the Moira, which you expect with this setup. Defiant go with the Zenyatta out of the gate. You know, Ana. So that will probably serve them well. The Discord orb is still coveted.
Just pay attention when we get to some of these fights for Yakpung on the Toronto Defiant. Cannot die early here. They've done a nice job of picking him off. They've been playing this quad tank setup with the Roadhog.
High ground from the Toronto Defiant.
Looks like Boston potentially going back for a switch. Yep.
Very disciplined for Boston.
I think they just see that the high ground, so they'll just play with a Brigitte in it. So they're not going to play with the Roadhog.
A little bit more of a classic setup from Boston now. But they give the point over to the Toronto Defiant here. So if they're going to fight, they need to make it a quick fight. They do not want this to drag out. Yakpung bubbled and given a repair pack there. A lot of resources have been allocated towards the main tank. Yakpung doesn't want to drain any more of those, so he tries to get onto the high ground. He's trying to back away. Again, Orb of Discord continually being placed on him. Ivy's low as well, though. The tanks from the Defiant are taking an absolute beating. And with Aid falling down now, Calahex looks so good in the last couple maps. And over to the Zarya now, not only showcasing that hero pool map, but really keeping it calm and cool.
So disciplined from the Uprising to go back to the spawn, make the change. You know, we kind of got on them on Busan, right? They tried to make a change late when they gave up the point back to Toronto. It didn't work out. This time, though, at the beginning of the game, when the percentage just starting to tick, you're able to make that type of maneuver. Toronto, they decide to stay on the Winston version of the 3-3. You're going to get the Primal Rage here soon. May as well get a use of it.
Yakpung just needs to be careful about his positioning, that's all. Boston in control now. The Defiant need to try and identify an opportunity to get rid of a player on the side of Boston very quickly. Calahex playing around the pillar, thinking about going for a grab there, and he's happy that they've caught Yakpung now. Discord order on him. Transcendence will be able to keep him alive. It is Yakpung has to play safe for a brief moment, but it's enough to get him back to safety. Shadow, though, immediately Yakpung walks straight into that one, just as he was trying to return to the point. The Boston Uprising, yes, they're spending a few ultimates on this fight, but they're gaining that percentage back now with this cleanup damage. 45 to 31.
I mean, a rally used for Toronto, and they used their Transcendence as well. Yakpung now switches over. Boston, I think the biggest thing is they hold on to this Transcendence. You'll have the Transcendence when the Graviton Surge comes down. Just can you get a good setup for Envy's self-destruct when they decide to use it?
62 and counting. The Defiant was all about that Graviton. Aim God trying to play safely away from the rest of his team. Now with Yakpung playing the Reinhardt, he could probably just play on his own a little bit more now and not fear instantly being picked off by a Winston. Ooh, a couple big hits there. That was Ivy, I think, beating. And again, no burst healing for the Defiant here. It's just the repair pack. IM37 takes a lot of damage. Aim God really putting pressure on the Defiant from the back lines here. And he has Transcendence available, so when push comes to shove, he'll be there.
And Boston's trying to bait the grab on the Fusions. They play Fusions so far ahead of everybody else. The Transcendence comes through. You're not able to keep Fusions alive,
Fusions got knocked out of the way into the blast of Envy, and now Boston had to operate with a player disadvantage. It would appear that they don't want to spend too much on this fight. Rather just stall to 99%, let it go and come back. and try and end the game off the back of Color Hex, who's been stellar in the last 2 maps.
I mean, Boston got what they wanted. They wanted Fusions to get solo grabbed and then come in with the Transcendence to just, not have everybody kind of get caught up inside of it, land one of those big, self-destruct Ravison Surge setups. Just he gets pinned, not able to keep him alive through it.
High ground make it a little bit hard for Color Hex to guarantee a good grab. He needs to wait for the Defiant to commit to the low ground, and now they begin to do that. He cannot let this Graviton be neat. It's happened to him before and to many other Zayas. He lays it down. He needed that one to connect, but it's no good. And the East that one up, and now Boston need to win without the grab. Blase gonna go for the running here as the Uprising need to stand their ground. Fusion's shattered. He nails Yakpum, but a very quick sound barrier from 8 keeps Yakpum standing for the Defiant Ivy. Finds 2, and Fusions is taken down. Boston was so close. They needed that grab to work. And at a crucial moment, Color Hex's resolve breaks.
Oh, with all the momentum going in favor of the Uprising, winning the last 2 maps, then coming in here, taking the first point, in control now when we move over. We move into point 2. Envy with a huge play, eating that grab.
And God and Kellex both have support ults. That is a very good sign for the Uprising here. Even though they botched the previous fight, this one is theirs to win. Sound barrier already being used. Now we're in overtime. Fusions needs to use that durability to get some damage done. He needs to trade in that health for dead opponents. Self-destruct, no, he's caught out. He wasn't even stunned into the blast. But again, Boston Uprising have lost their main tank early in this fight, but they have to stay. They have to commit. Color Hex backing around the pillar. He's actually quite close to a Graviton. He might have a chance at redemption, but Ivy also has his ultimate ready, and he lets it go straight away. Color Hex and Blase caught up an L, but Yakpum goes down. Blase also missing. No, Ivy found the pick. It's a late grab from the Boston Uprising, but no one was there. It was just an ornament, a bit of decoration.
They may do this, though.
Drops in. EMP was huge. Fusion tries to get the pile driver here, and 80's force back. Envy is low. Desuited. Boston now with the advantage, the upper hand. 80's pooped away from the point, but Boston still need to capture it. I'm37 is cut off for the rest of his team, and Envy is only in mini diva form. He can't do too much. He needs to get that mech back. Color Hex returns to the fray, and the Soldier 76. The extra speed gets him there in time, but Yakpung appears in a flourish. He produces a fire strike that takes Color Hex down. Fusions is also low. He's trying to play so aggressively. The boot from Kellex doesn't knock anyone off the side of the map. Now Neko gets his Transcendence, and Kellex is on his own. Yakpung looking for a target, but he has an Earth Shatter. It doesn't matter. The Uprising was so close from making Overwatch League history and getting another reverse sweep, but they'll have to wait, if at all. The Defiant even it up here on our final map.
You see Neko just lean back in his chair. He's like, oh God, how did we win that? I actually thought when you had Fusions come back on the Wrecking Ball and that EMP goes off and RCK connects with everybody, I thought that was a moment where the Uprising could have swung it and they able to pick up a kill after that, but the Transcendence that comes through for the Defiant keeps everybody topped up. So 1 point of control to decide it all here.
Yakpung just walking onto that point, fire striking Color Hex in the face was rough. Well, the Uprising now, they had their chance. They need to make another one for themselves. It is their last chance, though.
Interesting here for Toronto. 3 supports with the Pharah. So you bring in, no Diva here. You're going to have the Pharah playing. So I'm37 will play Brigitte. So you have a Brig on a Mercy combination going up against your traditional triple tank, triple support. The Reinhardt looks like Boston, though, tailing it back to the spawn. They'll switch it up.
They do not fancy their odds against this Pharah, I believe. RCK, Sombra, that's reasonable. And God switching over towards the Ana. No other huge changes. No Color Hex, McCree, or Blase switching. They'll just go with that. And that does give, again, Toronto the point first. Once more, Boston have to concede that to allow them to switch up their composition or something more optimal. But they quickly push back in. Look at them try and take all this ground. RCK, 2 unsuccessful hacks. His line of sight was broken on both occasions. He's looking out for Ivy. He's taking a lot of damage here from that semi-automatic weapon. 8 is down. No fire strike. Fusions gets one back on Yakpung. He did exactly the same thing that previous map, but Ivy already has a barrage. He gets one. He has to trade that in. It's going to have to be enough. I'm37 to push up, but Yakpung returns to the fight with a lot of health. In the fray, though, Boston took the map. The Defiant need to kick them out, and soon. But Envy gets caught in by a Grenade. Has to try and hide behind the shield of Yakpung, but that may not be around for much longer either. Boston recover in the fight, and they kept the point. And now they're catching up percentage. It's 20 to 24.
Yeah, Boston flips it and best some ultimates there, and they're able to hold on to the point. Now you have the EMP coming in here for RCK. You'll be able to set that up for the next fight. So potentially, let's say if Toronto tries to come in, they don't know the EMP's available. You end up trying to set a play around your Graviton Surge, and it goes sideways when the EMP comes through.
RCK opts not to hang around Ivy. Instead of the grab, he's going to get that EMP off. It's Neko Yak coming up, 37 all affected. And with Envy going down first, he was the one that set the grab off. May not be enough, but Neko fires back here. Ivy coming with barrage. This could be a huge turnaround against two. Fusion and Color Hex both missing. Two of the highest value targets. Blase, cheeky right click though to find Ivy. Remember, Boston is still in control of the point, and Blase is stalling it out. Bionic grenade. Blase goes for the whole hog and gets rid of it. I'm 37.
Stalling out, he's killing everybody.
That's right, this is fight. Going to Boston. Blase does get slept, but his friends are on the way, and very quickly they reassemble on the point. 67 to 24.
You know, we talked about how the tanky Roadhog is now. You know, he's able to use to take a breather, and he gets nano boosted, right? So you get the damage reduction from that, able to keep him alive long enough. He gets whole hog, he picks up one, then pushes I'm 37 all the way off the point.
Unbelievable in the 1v1. Boston, though, trying to push forward a little bit here. Earthshatter, nothing. No one is hit by that one, and Yakung now just has to put his shield up sheepishly and wait for another chance to engage. A peek around the corner, a swing. The Defiant don't have time to exchange pleasantries. It's 92% to 24. They have to go now, and they have nothing to work with. Fusion's Earthshatter is going to be up right about now. He gets stunned, and he needs to use it. He needs to stay alive and have a chance to end the fight here and now. Getting the nano boost definitely helps Fusions, and there's the shatter. He gets Ivy and Neko, both of them knocked down, but can he follow up? He can't quite access Nazaya, who is so low. Yakung turns around on a fire strike. Fusions is down, and in a flash, the Boston Uprising now have to give the point back. Patience is something they're gonna have to exude.
Fusions hits that shatter, and they also connect with a sleep dart on the aid, and they're still not able to win that fight. So odd there, as Toronto able to peel back a little bit. Yakung gets the big pick on the Fusions. As Fusions at that point probably thought it was decided, started to push forward, get aggressive.
Boston, they have a Graviton map, but Neko Transcendence is coming up. The Defiant the last fight was looking very bad for Toronto. All economy-wise now, it's been excellent. That would have been very scary for Toronto, but Boston just couldn't get there. So where does this grab go? Hopefully not into Envy's. Again, no, Color Hex says not this time. He lets go with the Graviton Surge, but Neko does have the Transcendence. Ivy, though, is down. The Zarya is missing. Huge part of the damage for the Toronto Defiant. And now the Boston Uprising can start to take control. 8 and up, 37 are down. Again, RCK opens up the fight, getting an unlikely Diva Bomb kill. And now the Defiant had to push back on, but it's not enough. 3 reverse sweeps in a row. This team refuses to go down. No one embodying the name of Defiant more than their opposition.
Unbelievable series. So Boston pulls it out in the end with another reverse sweep. Unreal, man. I mean, and this is one where, at the halftime it looked all Defiant. The Uprising, the first map was kind of close. Second map, Toronto looked very strong, but the Uprising bounced back in the second half in a huge way and get the win.
It always seems to be Boston that are credited with these incredible moments, but you actually mentioned jokingly, Boston just won a couple of extra games to play with RCK. But that was this last 3 maps of the series is where we really got to see the true grit of a lot of their newcomers, or the players that didn't shine in stage 1, or didn't really get time to demonstrate their hero pool. But that Diva Bomb by RCK, it gets Ivy. He wasn't necessarily trying to set anything up with it, but it did win the game ultimately. I definitely want to hear from this team. Let's head down now to the stage with Nika and Fusions.
Thanks, guys. I got Fusions down here, and like they said, congratulations. You have set a record today in the Blizzard Arena, 3 reverse sweeps in a row, and that is pretty impressive. So give us a round of applause for Fusions. So speaking of which, is this some sort of new, Boston strategy? Oh, you can't even hear. They're cheering so loud. Is this a new Boston strategy, the reverse sweep? Is this something we're going to see from you guys a lot, or are you just, really loving pulling out the punches in the second half? What's going on here?
I think coming into the game, we knew what we wanted to do. We knew how we wanted to play, but we were really hesitant. We weren't confident like we usually are on the first maps, and that's been a symptom of all the reverse sweeps that we've had. But after halftime, we really got the confidence back. We started playing like we practiced. We knew what we wanted to do, and it worked out.
Congratulations. I like hearing the practice is working out. And I know that you made a name for yourself as an amazing Reinhardt, but we saw you play some Bomb Hamster. We've been seeing you on different heroes, and that's really amazing. But is it taking some getting used to, changing your mindset at all, or are you just an amazing tank overall?
It definitely takes getting used to. I mean, I've been playing Rhyme for so long, coming from contenders where it's been GOATS meta for so long as well. But I'm really working hard, grinding a lot to learn the new heroes and trying to show that I can compete at the top level with everything.
That's so wholesome. Well, congratulations, your grinding is paying off. So that's all we have down here. Back to you, casters.
Thank you very much, Mika. Not only does Fusions punch trees, but he also punches a hole in Boston's record, which was starting to look a lot better. But, you know, we always ask ourselves what goes into these achievements, these triple reverse sweeps. And, you know, he kind of laid it out there. Again, if you're a player on that stage, you have to take every moment as it comes. But I'm really, really impressed with some of these names on the Uprising that in the past have been overlooked a little bit.
I mean, it's just kind of like last year where they're a little bit underrated. They come in with some pieces you don't expect to play as well. Great coaching staff. This Boston's look great thus far. And we take a look at our HP Omen player of the match. For this one, we're going to go with ColorX. He played phenomenal all series long. You know, tons of different heroes he brought out during this one. You know, Widowmaker made a difference. The Zarya as well.
Yep, slower start to the series for him, but towards the end, I think we really started to see him come into his own. He had to go up against Ivy on Farah, who probably would have been my player of the match if we'd seen a little bit more from the Defiant in that last particular map. Switching over the Soldier 76, this was a fantastic map for him, probably the best in my opinion. And yeah, those last moments on Zarya, obviously not quite landing the grab that could have ended the game a little bit earlier. I still think we saw a performance from him far exceeding what we expected.
Yeah, I think with ColorX and Blase, I think you know how Boston has built this team now as we move into stage 2. With those two players, with the damage dealer roles, and then now obviously you can play the off tanks and supports. You have RCK who can play flex tank mainly, but then also play some damage dealers. Boston very flexible as we move deeper into stage 2.
And heading deeper into our matches for today, the one coming up should promise to be quite the interesting affair. New York Excelsior looking quite strong already this stage. They've got a lot to prove after missing out on playoffs last time around. And the Shanghai Dragons as well have shown signs of strength but have been unable to convert on some of their great individual performances. That match is coming up next, so don't miss that one. We'll be back with more Overwatch action on the other side of these messages.
Nice!
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota, official North American partner of the Overwatch League. Toyota, let's go places.
You want the Excelsior game? You know what's up.